Hello everyone, welcome to episode 5 of Nich and Jon Is This.
5.
5.
I'm agreeing.
Oh, you're
Sorry,
agreeing.
I said it in a really weird way. I
Nich
was
and
like,
Jon Is This 5.
and I was like 5.
5.
Like in an appreciative manner.
Definitely.
It's the first decent Roman numeral, I feel.
Yeah.
In like 5, like we're halfway to 10. This is practically
Because
a
IV,
thing.
that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
Who cares?
Who puts a number before another number and then claims that's one number less than it?
Speaking of numbers, completely off topic, but we were praising the design of a Resident Evil 7 logo the other day.
Yeah. Because the VII of Roman numeral 7 is cunningly hidden within the word evil.
You were very impressed,
I
weren't
was
you?
really
As a
impressed.
designer, you were like,
Yeah.
oh, hot damn.
That's good,
Ooh.
that's good. And then we saw the logo for Biohazard, which is, of course, the Japanese name for Resident Evil. And in the Z of the hazard, the 7 was hidden in there as well. Not in Roman numerals, obviously, but I was like, that's good.
But segueing,
Yeah.
and speaking of Japanese names for things, we're big fans of the Shinji Ikari Super Happy Fun Time Adventure Hour,
Yeah.
or as it's known in Japan, Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah, that's right. So we thought, hey, let's do a podcast
Let's
about
do
it.
a podcast about it,
Yeah.
but we couldn't work out a title
No.
based on the the American version. Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, I'm ruining it.
It's all good.
I'm John.
Episode 5. I'm Nick.
Hello and welcome.
5.
You already did a welcome. I'm ruining it.
That's all right, fine.
This is so spontaneous.
5.
Episode 5. Episode 5 of Nich and Jon Is This Evangelion.
Indeed.
Which is, of course, also episode 5 of Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is, and I have the title right here,
Ray 1.
Rey, comma, Beyond Her Heart.
Oh, is that right?
That's what it said at the start of the episode. But then at the kind of halfway break, it said Rey 1.
Or Ray, capital I.
Yeah. Do you reckon they had like a different title for each half of the episode or something like that?
No.
No?
I've just brought it up here on my phone.
Yeah.
And it, as always, has more than one title. Ray 1 is there.
Yeah.
Rei Kokoro no Mukuni, which means Ray Beyond the Heart.
Okay.
So,
Okay, well, let's
I
go.
guess it's all right.
Okay, fine. Well, let's run with that.
Okay.
I guess if you've been following the series, you know that last episode was a bit of a low point.
Low point, yeah.
It was a bit of a low point. So, statistically,
It can only go up.
it could only be
Woo.
better, you'd think. I think yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think when we were talking about it, not yesterday, last time we did this show, I felt that maybe this would be a really high, because like the reason the one before was so low was because it's like, oh yeah, we're building up to something great, so it's a bit of a non-episode because all the money's going to go into the next one. And it wasn't quite that. It wasn't quite this spectacular blockbuster or singing or dancing unicorn starshine episode. Not that I'm ever expecting that from Evangelion.
Another alternate title.
But it was better.
It was. I guess kind of looking at it as a kind of bigger thing now, it's kind of like episodes 1 and 2 were very clearly like a two-parter.
Yeah.
That was just, that's...
This is the intro.
Yeah, you can't question it. It's like, yeah, bang, fight, you see a bit, continues in the second thing. So if you were watching this on television, maybe it was a brand new series debuting, you'd be like, okay, opening, two-parter, there's big action and everything.
Yeah.
Then episodes 3 and 4... they were kind of like a two-parter as well, because you had Shinji fighting the fourth
Lobster, string
angel, the
arms.
lobster dude, and disobeying an order, getting into trouble for it. It was very emotional.
But
It was
also
like,
meeting some people at school.
yeah, it was like
So
it was,
greater emotional
angst
character
and-
stuff, I guess.
and then I reckon like episodes 1 through to 4 are kind of like a loose arc
I guess
in a weird way.
I don't know whether to include this episode in that though.
I got the impression that this was starting.
No, you're right. Actually,
the next kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like, here's a cycle, and it's everything from Shinji arrives, hey, there's robots, and then emotional drama, and then he decides to stay.
Yeah,
So really, at the end of episode
you're
4,
right. That makes sense. Yeah,
at the end of the last episode, which we didn't care for massively, it's now set up. Like, so Shinji is kind of ensconced now.
yeah.
Like-
and it shows actually, because there's a scene which we'll get to when we start talking about the episode. But there's a scene in this one where they're checking out the body of the last angel that was
Yes.
killed. And Shinji's just sort of part of the family now, isn't he? He's wearing a hard hat with Nerve written on it, and he's just hanging out with Misato and Ritsuko, and they're just sort of analysing computer readouts and stuff, and he's just sort of there, as anyone you would expect from the pilot
Yeah.
of their most important weapon.
I get the impression, like, if this were... I don't say, like, if this were like an American drama, because it's of similar length. If you think like it's 20 or so episodes is the whole
true.
series. It's like if you were running a show, if you're a showrunner and you're thinking like, how do we do this? How do we set up a show? Like, how do we organize it? You got to have a big opening, then something to draw people in. Now is the point at which I would expect it to become Monster of the Week.
It's exactly the words I was going to use.
Yeah, like now
This is where we're now set in the formula
Yeah.
that you can expect ongoing episodes to at least reference. At most, maybe follow. Yeah.
But and I guess that kind of happens. But they spend a lot of time. There's more character stuff, but it's really about Ray. This episode. It's
The bottom line is this isn't an American show.
Yeah.
You know, like and so it behaves very differently. And part of our fascination with anime, both as Westerners, but also as like, you know, people who like stories about abstract things, is that the Japanese, particularly in anime, tell stories in quite a different way. So as much as it kind of is following that structure that you were talking about, we will never expect it to follow it exactly.
Yeah.
Because like why would it?
Well, I guess like also if you were the producer or whoever was running this, it's like now you could either, I guess,
You got to do something.
You could either you gotta do give us something. You gotta do something.
After last episode.
You could either like, I guess, cement the formula. So kind of have like monster attacks, you know, deals with it, it's all wrapped up in a neat bow. Or I guess you could go the other direction, which is what this episode maybe did, which was kind of like, well, let's flesh out the cast. So now,
True.
so who is this other character?
Which we've seen in 4 episodes, but like, who is she?
And I guess I wonder whether like, it's nice that they're doing character stuff and kind of bringing Ray to the fore, but it's also like we've not seen her in action, we've not seen her do anything, and it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe if I were doing this, maybe I would have had an episode now where Ray and Shinji were both in action or something like that, and then do the character stuff, because it feels 2 slow episodes in a row.
It's funny because we know what's coming.
Yeah.
Because the end of this episode introduces the next angel, which is, of course, the floating blue.
Possibly
prism.
my favourite. Possibly my favourite angel, Ramiel.
And we know how that's fought. And without going into... I mean, I don't think I'm spoiling anything here, because the people who are listening to this are inevitably going to be Evangelion fans. You know that Ray and Shinji team up to fight this one.
Yes.
So, as you've rightly pointed out, although you'd have done it the other way around, they're still doing the same thing. They're building up to an event. And I couldn't help but thinking while watching this episode that actually putting the introduction of Ray ahead is actually quite cool. Because all we've seen of Ray, and we'll get into the synopsis obviously as I say, but like all we've seen of Ray is that she's somewhat distant, disconnected. When she pilots her unit, everything doesn't seem to go that well. So for her to appear in a moment of dire need when fighting the angel is quite a cool moment, because it goes against everything we thought we knew about her.
You are raising a good point. And I guess because I'm trying to racking my brains, and I don't know whether this story arc goes over 2 episodes or whether it even goes over 3 episodes.
It might go
I
over
can't
3,
remember.
Yeah.
But this is definitely like the next cycle. And I guess if there's a point to it, it's like the point of the first arc is Shinji stays.
Yes.
And the point of the second arc is that Shinji and Rei gain mutual respect.
Kind of.
Yeah, they gain the power of,
As
they
much
become
as
a team.
Guy
kind of.
with no connection to reality and a girl who's grown in a vat can.
Oh, spoilers! But yeah. Oh, and also maybe now's the time to mention we had some interesting feedback on our kind of criticism of the previous episode.
Oh, did we?
Well, we have discussed this off mic. You know, Lucy's theory.
Oh, yes, yeah, true.
Because we were talking about how we didn't really care for the last episode because we felt what they were trying to do, they didn't really stick. They didn't stick the landing.
No.
Like, I got what they were trying to do, but it was very overblown, and we found ourselves really sympathising with Shinji when I think you were meant to feel the other way. I think they wanted you to feel like, Shinji, wake up, damn it, show some emotion.
I think we basically concluded that whichever way we were meant to feel, either way, whether it was with Shinji or against Shinji, the story did not give us enough equipment to do either.
You were meant to feel like, I think you were meant to feel that like, damn it, Shinji, show some emotion, and then and all the adults shouting at Shinji. I think we were meant to feel that they were right and they were trying to teach him a lesson. But actually, we felt like no, like all the adults are actually incredibly like unreliable and like
inconsistent is the word. I feel.
Yeah,
Massively inconsistent.
But Lucy's theory,
yes,
which she freely admits maybe giving the show too much credit.
I think it is, but
Yeah.
I like the theory anyway.
Is the idea that because Shinji is depressed and is suffering from depression, and we were saying, like, why is the whole world so unreasonable? Like, Shinji is actually being pretty reasonable,
Yeah,
really. He's saying, like, look, I don't want to do this, but I will do it to
Yeah.
save the world. She's like, no, damn it, you have to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And Lucy was wondering whether the whole thing is actually a bit meta, and it's actually like this distorted view of the world, like everything that was annoying us, is actually kind of like a metaphor for depression.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that all the adults do actually seem so unreasonable in hindsight, is kind of like, maybe it's a bit bigger, and maybe it's like, we are meant to sympathise. It was an interesting point.
Lucy
yeah.
made a good point when I was talking to her about it, that whether he did it intentionally or not, that's maybe what ended up. Like, maybe when a manically depressed person makes a story, makes a TV show, maybe he can't help it comes out. So maybe he never intended to create this story that is actually a reflection of what it's like to be depressed.
Yeah.
But it ended up being that because that's just how he sees the world.
Yeah.
And he really thought he was making a story that made sense. So you can't credit Hideaki Anno necessarily with this genius representation of depression.
Yeah.
I don't think. But you can credit the fact that it was him who made it that ended up it being the way it was.
Yeah.
Because I don't think... I get the feeling that if he'd intended it to be like this amazing allegory, artistic representation of what it's like to be depressed for those who aren't, to therefore understand it, there would be a deliberateness about it.
Yeah.
There would be a clarity, because there's no point. It's like my whole issue with Prometheus, and I'm not going to get into that. But if you
talk
want
for
to,
a whole hour about
I
Prometheus,
could, yeah. But if you want to make these messages clear, if you want to educate people with your story, then you have to give them the tools to do that. You can't just sit back and go, "Oh yes, there's lots of allegories and lots of interpretive elements in that, but I'm not going to tell you any of them." It's like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because how are we meant to learn unless you tell us?
Yeah.
If you're this great, amazing teacher, if Ridley Scott is this genius man who we need to bow down and worship to, and the same with Hideaki Anno, then teach us, masters. Tell us your amazing things. But they're not doing. And that deliberateness is missing from both this and Prometheus.
Yeah.
And so crediting it with all this amazing like value and worth is, I think, broken because they didn't mean to do it.
Yeah. It's almost like this
clear.
idea that how can an artist not produce art?
Yeah.
Like, it's weird. Like, if
We're getting into art, aren't
Yeah,
we now?
yeah.
If you're going to say that Evangelion is some representation of depression, then we're basically saying it's not an anime, it's not a story
Yeah.
about robot mecha, it's not about that, it's about depression, and therefore it's a piece of art.
that's the thing. Like, the commentary almost becomes so meta.
Yeah.
You can't.
No.
You can't appreciate it. It just gets layers and layers and layers. Like,
And someone else could take something else completely different
Yeah.
away from it, and it all becomes pointless then.
if we have to kind of.
We have to take it at face value.
We have to approach it on face value and
do.
accept that it's meant to be a piece of entertainment. It's not meant to be.
Yeah.
You can-
and if you want to take
yeah.
something away from it, if someone else wants to take something more away from it, then great. But I'm not going to be that
Yeah.
person, because that's not how I'm viewing this.
Because ultimately, like, things can be, you can have something that's arty and you can go back and look at it on deeper layers and go, oh, wow, I'd never really appreciated the symbolism
Yeah.
or something like that. But at the end of the day, they were trying to tell a story and I think they failed.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But I think Lucy might be right in saying that the reason that maybe they failed, certainly from our perspective, is because he was depressed.
Yeah.
And it's ended up being a representation, potentially, by accident. Like he just fell over and left an imprint in the clay of his face. And that's what we're looking at,
So
trying to interpret it.
if an artist falls over and accidentally leaves
This
an
is exactly
is
it.
it art?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, if an artist works in the medium of paint, and he creates these incredibly evocative paintings of red and blue, and then he falls over into cement
Yeah.
and leaves an imprint of his face, are we meant to take that as his art as well?
Ah.
But he works in paint. Hang on, what's going on here? I feel like Hideaki Anno was trying to create a robot mecha anime story about the end of the world, and he fell over.
Well, just to how about this then? Just to torture the metaphor even further. He's working in paint. Paint is his medium. He's creating this incredible canvas. He's splashing paint left, right, and centre. Oh, it's beautiful. It's a work of art. But every swing of the paintbrush, because he's messy, is sending paint flying.
Yes.
And there's splatter marks on the floor. And to our mind, that's a mess. But to another mind,
It's
that
the results.
Is that a Jackson Pollock brilliant?
Whatever it is, we're interpreting the overflow and outlay of another intention. His intention was to create whatever's on that canvas, and we're analysing the mess on the floor. That's literally what's happening.
This is
here.
the problem. It's like it's like you can analyse the analysis, and it just gets circles within circles. And
Yeah. But I think that's actually a really good analogy. Like the wash, the overwash, you know.
The splatter marks.
Hit new
of
game
the
from Blizzard Entertainment. Overwash.
So you're listening to the Evangelion Art Hour with Nich and Jon.
We got deep fast. Whew.
Deep cut. Should we
So deep.
Should we talk about Ray Beyond Her Heart?
Let's talk about this episode.
So how does it open, Nick?
It opens with a test of Unit 0,
Yes.
I believe.
Have we seen Unit 0 yet?
I feel like we have, but not in action.
Have we seen it? I'm
Maybe
not sure
I'm just
anymore.
so familiar with it that I feel like I've seen it always.
Because when
in my
Shinji
mind.
arrived at Nerve, he was taken down, he was showing Unit 1, bang, big fight occurred. He then spent time, like I suppose, moping around. They fielded Unit 1 again against another Angel. I don't think we've seen Unit 0.
Maybe we haven't. Maybe we haven't then.
Yeah.
Okay, well, either way,
Okay.
this might be the first time then we see Unit 0.
Okay, so Unit 0, which is yellow,
Yep, at this point.
kind of like a more pared down version.
I really like Unit 0's design.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming from a purely design perspective now. There's a sort of prototype feeling to it.
Yes. Because it doesn't have the big shoulder fins, does it not?
No, it doesn't. You're right. No,
No.
it doesn't.
It's got the same body type. Like,
Yep.
arguably, aside from like its head and shoulders, it's identical to
And it's
Unit.
got its unit name that lights up on its lower arms.
Very nice.
Which is cool.
And it has like this weird, very tight helmet.
Yeah.
Like, there's no frills or ridges like Unit 1.
And it has one eye.
Yeah,
One
one
big
central eye.
circular eye,
And
yeah.
also, like we were saying, like a weird green
Sort of
disc.
Yeah, it looks like it's made of green glass, but it also looks like it's almost like a hatch or a button
Yeah, on the top of its head.
on the top of its head. Yeah.
So it's yellow, and we see Unit 0 being tested, essentially, in a big unit, like the danger room.
Yep.
There's
And we don't see the pilot in this test at all.
Gendo
anyway.
and
Ritsuko.
are overseeing it.
They are.
And it's basically like we've put a plug in, there's a pilot inside it, but it goes crazy.
It's completely still, like locked against the wall.
In like a harness, isn't it? Yeah.
And all they're doing is starting it up, and the startup procedure seems to take a really, really long time. We see lots of like readouts on screens and things, lots of connections being made, and the voiceover is saying lots of scientific mumbo jumbo we don't understand about how it's activating, and they're connecting it to the pilot, and it's synchronizing and everything.
Seems to
And
be
then-
going well.
It seems to be going well, and then on the display there seems to be a borderline,
Hmm.
which lights are getting up towards, and the instant it starts to reach that borderline, everything goes to heck. All the lights then turn off, all the connections
Yeah.
break, and it starts to go insane.
And one thing I love about it, and this is like really driving home the fact that the Evas aren't robots.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it starts screaming.
Yeah,
Like-
and it behaves like someone who's got a bad headache.
Like it's clutching its skull.
Yeah,
It doesn't have
yeah.
a mouth, unlike the other
But it
unlike
is
Unit 1.
weirdly screaming.
And
like,
it's screaming, and then it becomes violent. And
rips
it starts,
out of its restraints at the wall.
It starts attacking the kind of viewing area where
Specifically
Gendo is.
punching where Gendo is situated in those windows.
And I think, as we both said, like hats off to Gendo for being just stone cold.
Doesn't even flinch.
This massive fist,
Yeah.
the size of a car, like crashes into.
Granted, the glass barely gives. It cracks, but it doesn't break.
That's a good precaution.
It's incredible.
It's not glass. It's transparent aluminum. Aluminum. But then they go like, oh, it's out of control. Eject the plug.
Yep. So the back of its sort of spine opens, and the long, thin, lozenge-like plug squirts out the back on little engines.
Yeah, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it kind of looks like when you release one of those rocket balloons, and
Yeah.
it gets caught in the corner of a room.
And
So that-
it's actually kind of cool because it's like it, as you said, it acted. They gave some thought to like,
the physics.
yeah. So it's like this thing's blasting off with rocket, and it's just
It's
kind
got
of
nowhere to go.
Yeah, caught in the upper corner of a room until the rockets run out, and then it falls to the floor.
Hits the ground. Yeah.
You know, they eject its power plug, so we're just waiting for it to power down.
Yeah, only 35 seconds.
So
apparently
clearly,
of
it doesn't
power.
have like a full charge.
But I thought about this when you just said the fins, because I remember later on they tell us that those fins are the batteries.
Oh,
So obviously, because it doesn't have fins, it doesn't have as much charge.
oh.
Yeah, so
Well, there we
that
go.
makes
We'll
sense.
have to keep an eye on
It's
that.
A little bit of forward thinking there.
So then they start pouring like
Expanding foam.
yeah, this red
Yeah, it's
liquid. So yeah, they go spraying it from jets, so it's getting kind of like
from all points in the room,
Yeah.
and it's sort of restraining it, kind of, and then eventually it powers down, and it's stuck in this sort of
So sort of
unleashed
paralysed, yeah.
fist. Pissed.
So then Gendo, in showing more emotion than we've ever seen,
Yeah,
runs down,
yeah, Arguably into quite a dangerous room.
Yeah, like I wouldn't want to be in there.
No care for himself at all.
Runs down to the the entry plug, and it's got like a
sort of vault door hatch, hasn't it?
I love the design of the technology.
Yeah,
because it seems very real, but because it's got like this latch with two handles, which you have to pull out, rotate, and push back in to open.
And then the door opens.
And he grabs it with his bare hands, but it's red hot.
Yeah.
And he burns his hands, but keeps on going.
Yeah.
Opens the hatch, pulls it out,
floods out,
and inside is Rey.
Yes, who seems to be okay-ish. She looks a bit like dazed, but she's all right.
And he's like,
he just says Rey.
He says, it's just like emotional muttering, like, "You okay?"
And his glasses fall off in this scene, and they land in a puddle of LCL. And I'm guessing that's hot as well, because
or is it just because it's near the entry plug, so the heat
maybe
of the
yes,
metal?
And so the glasses sort of warp a little bit, and the glass cracks in one of the lenses.
Yeah. Now that's our opening scene.
Yeah.
I have some questions.
Okay.
My biggest question is about the timeline. Because I assume this is a flashback to before the events of the main series.
Witsuko says that it's before Shinji joined Nerve, when she's telling him later.
So my question then is, it's like, because we're led to believe that when Shinji piloted Unit 1 against the Third Angel, that is the first instance ever in which an EVA has been deployed against an angel.
I think that's true.
It just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Because that's only the Third Angel.
Yeah.
And we know a little bit about 1 and 2, which is revealed later.
Yeah.
So, and it's in the name, so it's Unit 0. So this is like the prototype test EVA. So is this like one of the first instances in which they've tried putting a human inside one?
I reckon so, yeah.
So they do it, blah, 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 blah. It goes horribly wrong. And at the end, as you said, Rey appears to be okay.
Appears to be.
But when we see Rey at the start of episode 1...
she's wounded. She's
bleeding everywhere. She's got bandages. And I was wondering whether this was the instance in which she was meant to have been injured.
Well, she's not injured like that, though. She's not bleeding.
This is what I'm wondering, though. It's like she doesn't appear to be in a bad way. So can we just assume that there is another test that went wrong at some point?
I always assumed that this was one of many tests.
Yeah.
This was just the one where things went so bad that Gendo had to go in and get her out. And you could argue that, well, obviously they get worse because we've seen her bloodied in a hospital bed.
This is what I was wondering. Like,
yeah, do they say definitively that when Unit 1 is deployed against the Third Angel, that is the first time an Ava has been used in battle?
Well, in what other instance would it have been used in battle? Because that's the first angel to attack.
Yeah, but all I can think is that what if we didn't see Unit 0 fight the Third Angel before Unit 1 does?
But that's entirely possible, I suppose. I mean, it could be argued, why did that fail quite so badly? Because
I guess the big question is, what injured Rey to that level?
This is what I was wondering. Because I was trying to piece it together in my head, and I just assumed that, unless, like, when Gendo rescued her from the entry plug, she looked fine. He's like, Rey, are you okay? And she goes, like, yeah, I'm fine. And then suddenly just her eye explodes and blood goes everywhere.
Or Gendo's like, this will never hold up. I need to beat her up a little bit so that everyone will believe that...
She tripped. I'm fine.
She definitely tripped.
Steps out of the entry plug.
Gendo, you're lying, aren't you? No, she tripped.
So there so yeah, that was my only question.
It's a good question mark, and I think that may be something we never know.
Yeah.
Like, we joked that they injure Rey to force Shinji to pilot Unit 1 the first time, and who knows what Nerve is capable of.
I wouldn't put it past him, actually. I mean, as a side note, I always used to get the LCL, the liquid, confused with the red goo they'd kind of spray on stuff. Because, you know, like when we see Unit 1, and it's stored like up to its neck in like liquid.
Yeah.
That is also a red liquid.
Yeah, but LCL isn't red though, is it? LCL's like urine coloured.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. And like, and the red liquid that Unit 1 is stored in doesn't appear to be solid.
No, it's definitely a liquid.
So,
that's just liquids.
Lots of various goos lying around.
Many liquids.
Is it worth mentioning, because you commented on it, and I thought it'd be a good thing to bring up, just the general design of the computers.
Yes, I mentioned that I really liked all the displays and all the information readouts and everything, and particularly and I've always liked, from the very first time I watched this, the countdown timer that begins whenever the umbilical cord is disconnected, and you get that sort of multi-digited, sort of classic LCD display with the numbers spiralling down. I really like colourful displays on black backgrounds. I think that looks really, really cool. But there's something quite impressive about the fact that it doesn't really look like it's aged that much.
No.
Because it's very technical, rather
Yeah.
than thinking like... Because the reason I think that displays often age really badly in like sci-fi, particularly cartoons and stuff, is because they try and make everything look fancier than it needs to. But when you're dealing with data, you don't want it to look fancy and, oh, look how futuristic and all this. You just want it to be like informative. And I feel like all the displays in Evangelion were designed to... From a scientific perspective, like they just need to display this certain thing.
But it's kind of cool because they knew that, like, throughout the entire series, they're going to be using the same computers.
Yeah.
It's an interesting idea of coming up with a display which would also be like a visual language for the scenario. Like, because, there's also, whenever the pilot is synchronizing with the Eva, that's a thing you often see of like these two kind of like spirals superimposing over each other. Or...
And you also see that display of all the little
Plugs.
cuboids breaking.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's like, and it gives you know what's happening.
Yeah, it's
even
weird,
though
isn't it? Like,
I don't know how his computer works.
Scientifically, we have no idea what's going on, but emotionally, we're able to understand the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird, isn't it? But it's good. I really like it.
Well, I have another question for you.
Oh,
because you're generally quite knowledgeable about this.
I don't know.
When we see Unit Zero, I guess kind of like deactivated after it's been frozen in goo.
Yeah, and there's those cranes chipping away at the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has what I assume is like a kind of empty plug with a giant, almost like a crucifix sticking out of it.
Oh, yes.
I was wondering, because I think you see these a couple of times.
You do, I think, yeah.
Is it the same as like when you have an iPhone or something and you can get like a little
dummy
plug to go in your headphone socket just to keep it smooth?
Obviously there is a dummy plug system later on, but it's not that, I don't think. I always interpreted this, and again, like, I don't think there's any information that says anything about this, but I, for some reason, got this idea into my head that this is similar tech to the Lance.
Ah.
Yeah.
Which, of course, has not been mentioned yet.
Not yet.
No.
But that is the one thing that is a huge weakness to an Ava. And I feel like, what if you could put something in? You know when you buy like a toy from a store and it's got the little tab that you got to pull out. And it won't work until it's that. It's the religious end of the world equivalent of a little plastic tab that you pull out.
It's like the thing has no pilot, it's powerless, but they somehow also felt it necessary to stick like a giant plug crucifix in its back. And I'm like, there's clearly a reason for it. Is it just like, here is a lump of concrete, the same shape and size and dimensions, and it just plugs it?
I think so, because, I mean, as you've said, these aren't robots.
Yeah.
These are organic. And there's been plenty of times when they've displayed some amount of still functioning ability, even though their power is turned off. There's that moment after the first fight with Shinji and the Third Angel where he looks out and he sees the Ava's head without a helmet.
Yeah.
And its eye focuses on him. Yet it's got no power. So it's still alive inside the armor somehow, but only functioning on a very basic level.
It's kind of like they grew these giant biological beings, put them in armor, and then somehow
can turn them on and off.
Yeah, like maybe severed their brain functions.
I think it's something like that.
Yeah, and then give them a battery as well.
I think the entry plug is wired into their nervous system, like their brains. And their brains aren't fully active until the entry plug and the pilot's has synchronized with theirs, and then they become one. But if you took the entry plug out but didn't put anything else in, there's that basic animalistic part of them which is still alive.
Yeah.
And unless you were to put something to nullify that in there, I guess, they could do anything. Who knows? I mean, not a huge amount because they haven't got that much power. But...
There's several times in the series where they go live, even though they shouldn't have.
Exactly,
done.
Yeah. And behave in very human sort of ways.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, I don't know, it's like they built these or grew or created these living things and then somehow had to like neuter them.
Yeah,
that's
exactly the right word, neuter them.
Maybe they are intelligent and alive, but they can't function. They're almost like zombies until...
Yeah.
Okay, well, food for thought. Lots to talk about. So from that opening scene, which really establishes, I guess, that Gendo cares for Rei.
Yeah.
And vice versa. We then jump to, is it not their dissect or dismantling?
That's right. They're at the site of where Lobster String Arms was
from
defeated.
episode 3.
Yes. where he ends up on a hillside and he lets Toji and Kensuke into the
Because we
cockpit.
commented at the time that it didn't explode.
Yeah,
Like a lot of the angels blow up.
or turn into blood or something.
But Shinji stabbed it right in its heart.
It shut down and just everyone just stopped.
Yeah.
Like big statues.
So we cut to that hill.
Yep.
There is a giant chalk outline of where where Unit 1 was thrown against the hill.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. I don't know. Because
And
that's-
also, a sort of temporary research facility has been set up.
yeah, interestingly, that's not even where either Unit 1 ended up. Because he got up again.
Yeah.
And he ran down and killed the angels. So I don't know why
Very
they felt
true.
it necessary
Slid,
to
didn't
draw a line round that site.
Where his landing site was.
Unless they're planning where to put the trees back in to replace that ruined countryside. But there is a, like you said, like a pop-up research facility and a team, probably using, massive JCBs and, tunnel digging equipment, is dismantling this angel.
Yeah, and analysing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shinji, Misato, and Ritsuko are there.
Yeah.
And Shinji appears to have pretty good.
Just part of the gang.
Just seems to be getting on pretty well with
He's got a
everyone.
little helmet on. No one else has got a helmet on, but Shinji has. I guess they're protecting their pilot.
Finally.
Finally.
Yeah. Give that boy a helmet.
Jeez.
Should we take
protect
him into protective custody? Should we give him some emotion? No, helmet.
Should we protect him from the bullies at school?
Helmet would be
A
fine.
helmet will be fine.
Give him a
Doesn't have
helmet.
to wear it all the time.
He's finding it really hard to fit in at school, and kids are picking on him. Give him a helmet.
We
That
keep,
will endear him to the student body.
we keep giving him inconsistent commands about whether or not he should like what he's doing. Give him a helmet. Okay,
Keep
fine.
whittling down his self-worth.
But give him more helmets.
I agree.
Every time we chuck an insult his way, give him another helmet.
Slash the bodyguard budget. It's not necessary.
7 helmets.
Don't need it. More helmets.
Yes. Once he's got 10 or so helmets, he'll be safe.
Technically, we are in a global depression right now. Helmets are cheaper.
We've got
than
them lying around.
looking after this child.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Definitely. Helmets.
So we learn a couple of things. I made notes.
Oh,
Because this is something I always found very interesting about the series. We learned that angels are made of a different form of matter
which behaves like a wave and
a particle at the same
Yeah.
time. So, like photons, there is a degree of quantum uncertainty, you could say,
You could say.
about their matter,
The
their
makeup.
material. However, they are also 99.89% human.
Yeah, well, they're what was it she said? I mean, essentially their DNA.
But this is the thing, because when it pops up on the screen, it is nucleotide base
looks like a
pair, so
DNA,
it's
yeah.
DNA. And he says, "Look," and she goes like, "Look at this. Despite being made of
Of
different
exotic
matter, of exotic, high-end physics matter, they are 99.89% human."
How is that even possible?
It does seem like a contradiction, but I have to say, like, this was something I really, really loved when I first saw the series.
Finding out the angels were like us.
Because that was weird.
Yeah.
And
It's funny, isn't it, how it's more weird that they're like us than
Yeah.
that they're alien.
I loved that to bits.
Yeah.
And I know that doesn't really make sense when you break it down, but
It's kind of fun, though.
but it is a lot of fun. And I always got the thing I loved about Evangelion back then was the angels, and I loved this idea that if you did find alien life, it arguably would be so alien as we would have no frame of reference for it.
Yeah.
And I think the angels did a really good.
We've raved about their
Yeah.
design and how alien they are.
Because you get the impression that like they are intelligent, but it's intelligence on a different scale entirely to ours. Like we couldn't hold a conversation with them.
No.
It's alien. It's in the purest sense of the word.
Yeah.
And
And then we find out that they're like us. It's like, what?
I read this because I remember when I first saw the series, I did a lot of research, like early days of Wikipedia, like just consuming as much material about Evangelion as I could and the mythology. And I now know things about Evangelion where I'm not sure whether it was ever said in the series or whether it was expanded upon in some of the accompanying.
I remember you told me some of this. That's stuff that I'd never
Yes.
heard of before.
Yeah, which I assumed was canon, but maybe it kind of is, but not fully.
Well, I know that there was a book that was released when there was a weird cinematic release, I think, not of the series obviously, but of like what was the film that basically just collected all the series together? That was End of Evangelion, or was it Death and Rebirth?
Death and Rebirth.
Yeah, and that was shown in a cinema, and everyone who went, I understand, received something called the Red Book,
Yes.
which was kind of like a program that they got to take in, but it added loads of lore and mythology,
Very, yeah.
which subsequently has been translated, although in varying qualities, and more has leaked out into the internet.
Yes.
It's hard to distinguish that stuff, which you could call truth,
Yeah.
from interpretive stuff.
Because there's so much in the series, and certainly when it gets into the big stuff later, which is really what we're looking forward to,
Yeah,
is never explained.
definitely.
Like you mentioned the Lanks briefly earlier. That's never really explained where that came from or
really.
anything. And I know that some of the contents of that red book do explain it.
I think so, yeah.
But quite whether or not you accept that as being part of the greater Evangelion mythos is up, that's up to you.
Exactly, yeah.
But I remember reading at one point, and this is the thing that really blew my mind. This series is all about biblical imagery and everything. But it's the idea that humans and angels are essentially the same, but in the Garden of Eden, be it real or metaphorical, there were two trees, and there was and they had fruit, and there was the fruit of life,
Yep.
and the fruit of knowledge.
Yeah.
And it's the idea that humans ate from the tree of knowledge.
Which meant they weren't immortal and didn't have eternal life.
Yeah, so we knew the secrets of death, and
were capable of learning about the universe.
yes, and we gained the ability to make things.
Yes.
So our bodies are weak, but we can change things, and we die.
Change our own reality.
We live and die.
Yeah.
The angels ate from the tree of life, and this is what I loved. And the idea is that they became angels to
Yeah.
the point where they are these giant, universe-shaping beings which can harness the true powers of.
But they don't learn or improve themselves or the world around them. They
and
just stay as
they
they
don't
are.
reproduce, so they don't need
No.
to. They're like, I love this idea. They're just entities. They're not species. They're not
Yeah.
organisms.
They're
They're
something
just
completely different
things.
to us. Yeah.
And like, why would they ever need to change? Because they're perfect and immortal, and
exactly.
they could just peruse the universe forever.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I love that idea.
And it works really well
Yeah.
as a concept, I think, because that's why they're so different, that's why they're so alien, that's why they're so strong, that's why they're so, cosmic.
They have the ability to like heal from pretty much anything.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what-
Most laws of physics type attacks on them are completely useless.
yeah,
The only thing that really has an effect is the AT field.
true.
And
Yes,
and we
now-
learn more about the AT field down the line that, if it's what divides humanity into separate organisms.
Mhm.
And without going way ahead of ourselves, the end is about everyone's individual AT fields breaking down and us becoming one large thing.
which is
again.
a really cool idea. And I
Yeah.
know when we get to that, because we have mentioned the AT field in so much as
Yeah.
we know an Eva can apparently generate one.
And it's mentioned in episode 2.
Yes, yeah, exactly,
When
yeah.
Unit 1 fights Satchel.
But quite what it is
He's unknown
isn't
at this
revealed
point.
to later, and
Yeah.
that's a really cool idea. I love as well.
It all ties in.
But yeah, sorry. So that's just something.
No,
I
that's
really,
cool, yeah.
I really dug.
And I think that's what's cool about the start of this episode, is we have that Unit 0 test, and it's exciting to see how they behave when they're not working properly, and that maybe they don't always. All we've seen so far is Unit 1 battle quite successfully. The only reason it failed at first was because Shinji was a bit new to the whole thing. But we just thought, oh yeah, these are great, powerful weapons. But the actual truth of it is they're complex, emotional, synchronizing things. And then the next scene after that is an analysis of an angel, where we're sort of taking it apart. And I think even they have a fragment of the core, don't they? And Gendo
Yes.
says something to the effect of, "Oh, that's useless. Chuck it in the bin."
That's a very good point. Because that is a kind of throwaway line,
Yeah.
which I guess kind of becomes important later. But
Yes.
they have a salvaged core.
Well,
of an
yeah,
angel.
but it's ruined.
It's ruined.
And
It
they can't learn anything from it at all, but we're learning that the core is important.
And apparently it is of great interest to the
Yeah.
humans. So
And they want to learn more about it, and of course,
Yeah.
they do. And it is also at that point that Shinji notices that Gendo, his dad, has got burned hands.
yes, because Gendo always wears white gloves.
Yeah.
Which I assume was just him being stylish.
He's super cool.
Because they are pretty stylish. But it's possibly simply because he's hiding his burned hands, because
Yeah.
he damaged his hands when he freed Rei. So I guess that kind of cements the chronology of it. So
Because he's much, much healed now. And that allows him to ask Ritsuko what happened, and Ritsuko explains to Shinji what he did. And it immediately puts seeds of doubt in Shinji as to why his dad seems to care about Rei, but doesn't really seem to care about him.
because he's never had any time for Shinji.
No.
But
So
apparently
why
he
is
was
he
willing to
caring
risk
about
his life to save Rei.
Exactly.
It's a,
Who is
it's a
Rei?
crushing
What?
emotional blow.
Massively, yeah.
We then cut to the school.
Yeah.
It's a sports session. The boys are playing basketball. The girls are swimming.
Yeah.
And the boys are all ogling the girls.
Yeah.
Swimming.
This is to me basically just a scene to, I guess, in the creator of the show's eyes, add a bit of humanity in, but
Well, it's kind of like ultimately, Because Kensuke and Toji are kind of teasing Shinji.
Yeah.
God, I forgot his name.
About staring at Ray.
Yeah, staring at Ray, and they're like, "Oh, you're perving on Ray, are you?" And he's like, "No, I swear, I'm just wondering why she's always alone." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's a good point. She is always alone. We've never socialised with her."
Yeah. And so there is that nice little character moment, I suppose, where we're starting to realise that, oh yeah, they're both Ava pilots, but they don't really know anything about each other, and we don't know anything about
And
Ray.
everyone knew that Ray was. This is the thing about the school. What as we said, doesn't make sense. Everyone knew. Oh no! Everyone cared that Shinji was a pilot.
They went crazy for it.
They're like, "Shinji, are you the new pilot?" He goes, "Yes." And we go like, "Oh my god, you're so cool!"
Yeah.
But they've been going to school with a girl they know is a pilot for a while.
Yeah. And yet she, from what we think, hasn't piloted Unit 0. But no, here's another weird point. Because Kensuke, when he gets really excited about Unit 1, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he wants to film it. And it seems like he knows about giant robots before Unit 1 is piloted for the first time.
It's a big thing, like...
Unit 0 must have been out in the public eye. It must have been.
Well, we were wondering, like, what the point... Like, no one... You see, I don't think it was, because I can't think of any good reason why they would have done it.
Well, neither can I.
But I'm wondering why or how much information do the public have? Because angels are attacking, and it's happened twice.
Yeah.
It has only happened twice.
So far.
Like, no one even knows the cause of Second Impact, which brought about this post-apocalyptic event.
But as far as the public would be concerned, there was one giant robot then, and there was one pilot.
Mm.
And yet, Kensuke and Toji and the rest of the school seem to know that Ray is also a pilot of a robot.
Well, I was just wondering, like, to avoid mass panic, they must have told the public something.
Yeah.
They could have said, like, look,
we got these
Nerve
robots.
are, they're we're going to get attacked by monsters are going to attack, blah, blah, blah. We have shelters. The entire city goes underground if need be. Like, people know about the evacuation routines. So, I don't know, just a bit of a mystery there.
Bit of a mystery there. But we've said before in earlier podcasts that we wish we could see a little bit more of the public's perspective on this.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot
because
of
we don't know what they know, and I'd like to know what they know. Because we know so much. Though also so little.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's just one of those... I guess it's something you can perhaps gloss over.
You can, really.
We have to. We
it.
forgive a lot of it to kind of make it work. But you do wonder, like, does this make sense or not?
So we have that tiny school scene.
Then we have another human scene.
We do. Back at Misato's apartment.
Yeah, it's Shinji's back living with her.
And Ritsuko is over for dinner.
Yeah, and frankly, certainly compared to last episode, Shinji seems pretty well adjusted.
He does, and the scene's quite good because it's a comedy scene.
Comedy scene.
And the joke is that Misato is a slob, and she only cooks instant meals.
Yep.
And she manages to cock that up to the extent that Ritsuko and Shinji eat what she's cooked, I say in inverted commas, and it tastes disgusting.
It's a bit of a... it's one of these odd kind of cutaway scenes which is full of like human emotion. You know, it's like a very comedy.
Yeah.
Because we see Pen the penguin eat some of Misato's food and then get ill and kind of pass out
almost. Yeah.
It's a very anime scene.
Yeah.
And I think in any other episode it would be very jarring.
Oh yeah.
But I think
we've had some human stuff in this one.
Yeah, so it doesn't feel so out of place.
No.
And yeah, it's kind of charming and it's not too bad. And, you know, Shinji does act like a relative human being.
Yeah.
And
then Ritsuko drops the bomb.
Yeah, she has an updated
ID card.
And she says to Shinji, "Can you please deliver this to Ray?"
I keep forgetting to do it.
Maybe it's a little ploy to get them to interact.
I think it might be a little bit.
And she's like, Ray's not very good at being human.
Sociable.
Yeah, she
actually says that, doesn't she? She's not very good at living.
Yeah, not very good at living. So then we get another baffling moment, because as we talked about in a previous episode, Shinji, as far as we know, only 2 pilots in the world, is
a very important asset.
So valuable. So valuable. It's not an overstatement. It's not. You know, it's not an exaggeration to say that the fate of humanity rests in his hands. So let's let this kid go unguarded
to school, get
beat up by bullies.
Yeah.
You know, Toji could have accidentally blinded him when he punched him. You know, that could have led to the deaths of millions. And Ray, who is the other pilot, we learn lives in this utterly run-down, horrible tenement block.
The establishing shot shows a very futuristic but very drab and horrible, very sort of cyberpunky, I always think,
Yeah.
set of apartment buildings, which is surrounded by what looks like abandoned and destroyed roads. It's
Yeah.
like she's living in an area that has been decimated by an angel attack.
I'm
and doesn't fold away. I
No,
don't
and
think.
I'm kind of curious to know, like, does anyone else live there?
It really looks abandoned.
Is she like the only person living in this shack?
And the walls, when we see the interior of it, are just bare concrete.
Yeah, she doesn't have any wallpaper, paint, rugs.
It looks cold. It looks drab. It looks uninviting. It looks horrendous. I mean, you could die, I think, from just like cold and moisture and damp.
Unless like Nerve are so good at what they do that we don't even notice them. Like there could be
7 men
nanoscopic
also in there.
cameras, like smart tech. Maybe they're spying on every element of our life to keep us safe.
I don't think they are, John.
I think they are. I don't think they care, Nick. So Shinji knocks on the door. No
There's
one
no
answers.
answer.
So being a sensible human being, just lets himself in.
Yeah.
The door is unlocked.
That's what you or I would do.
Just goes in,
Wait.
walks into a house, and he says like, "Hello."
Hey, he's not a complete animal. He takes his shoes
Takes
off.
his shoes off. He's like, "Hello, I'm here." Ray, hello.
No answer.
Goes into her one room.
Yeah.
There's a bed. There's like a cabinet.
Loads of bloody bandages everywhere.
Oh God, yeah.
It's horrendous.
It's
Actually.
rank. There's
It's rank. yeah.
bloody bandages everywhere. So yeah, again, a critically injured girl probably has to walk home every day from the hospital, openly bleeding into her bandages.
Yeah.
Good grief. So Shinji goes.
This is definitely the lowest point of this episode.
Goes over to the dresser, finds his dad's glasses.
The very ones we saw in the flashback that cracked.
Clearly a very important memento to Rei.
Clearly,
A symbol
if you will.
that Gendo cares for her. And Shinji puts them on.
I don't know why.
Don't know why. But he goes like, are these hers? Are these adult male glasses hers?
With a crack in
These
them.
broken glasses?
I've seen her before, and she doesn't wear glasses.
She
Are
always
these
wears
hers?
she always wears glasses.
She always wears her adult male glasses to work.
Turns around and
There's a
Ray
noise.
There's a noise. Turns
Yeah.
around and Ray is there, completely naked, save for a towel artfully draped around her shoulders.
Obviously, she's just got out of the shower.
And she doesn't go like, "Who the hell are you?" Well, no,
What are you doing
She
in
knows
my
who you are.
house?
What the hell are you doing in my house? Doesn't react in any way other than to stride over to him,
Storm over to him, like, yeah.
take the glasses off him, just take them off.
Like, obviously, again, they mean a lot to her.
They mean a lot to her.
But
Take it away, Nick. That's all yours.
Then, I mean, I even hated this the first time I watched it, before I was discerning, right?
Yeah.
Then there is an incredibly clumsy, even for the show, even for trying to orchestrate this event, the whole thing is clumsy. There's no reason for why this would happen.
Yeah.
But the kerfuffle of her taking the glasses off of Shinji causes Shinji to fall forwards onto her. So they're face to face.
Yeah.
She takes the glasses out of his hand, and somehow Shinji falls forward onto her, pushing her backwards so that she lands on her back, and Shinji lands on all fours over her, not pinning her down. Well, say for one hand.
And don't forget the drawer.
Yes, true. As Shinji falls, the strap of his satchel, which he has over his shoulder, catches somehow on a slightly open drawer of the chest of drawers that the glasses were perched on. And as he falls, he pulls that drawer out of the chest of drawers, which is full to the brim of loads of Ray's underwear,
Yes.
which cascades into the air.
Explodes.
There's just panties and bras and everything everywhere.
Like confetti.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
You can imagine that.
It's everywhere.
It is everywhere. Like it is like a snowstorm in that
Yeah.
room. And then then there's this really awkward static shot where they just stare at each other with awkwardness.
Yeah.
And I get that it's awkward,
Yeah, it's very awkward.
particularly when it is then revealed at the end of the awkward stare that Shinji's hand is on her boob.
And she just goes, "Will you get off?"
When you get off, yeah.
And he's like,
And then and there's lots of those anime boy noises.
yanking on his collar. And then he's like, oh no, like, you know,
And he gabbles out in an attempt to basically say that Mitsuko gave him an ID card to give to
I
her.
came to bring you your ID card.
She doesn't listen to a word of it.
She just gets dressed. And
Yeah,
leaves.
there's a lot of lingering shots of her getting dressed as well.
And she just leaves.
It's an incredibly pervy scene. Really, really bad.
Should we talk about this scene?
Yeah.
Because I think... Now, the issue is, like... I like anime. Which is like saying I like movies. It's a genre.
It's a genre. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's really, really broad.
Yeah, it's not like saying, do you like those Japanese cartoons? It's like, well, there's everything.
There is
Like,
everything, yeah.
It's a medium. It's not a genre. However,
Here we go.
despite me claiming that it is a medium, not a genre, there are certain staples or tropes which turn up a lot.
There are.
I've often compared it to pantomime
Which I think is a really good comparison.
because regardless of what pantomime you go to see, There's always a dame.
Yeah, there's always audience participation.
What do you call it? Like a leading
principal boy.
Like a
Slapping of the thigh.
a cat sidekick,
Yes.
something like that. There's always things you go
And these
through.
things are partly enjoyed and partly accepted.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is just how pantomime is. This is the rules.
So we know, and we watch a lot of not very good anime,
Yeah.
which we just give up on because there's no story. It's just these tropes.
Yeah.
And it seems like if you're very lazy, if you string a story, you can hang a story
Off of these pegs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in so many animes, there is the gimmick of boy accidentally runs into a girl, falls and lands on her and grabs a breast.
Has one hand on a boob. Yeah.
And it's always like, oh.
And I honestly could say, I think I've probably seen it in different animes, maybe about 15 times.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I reckon it's far, far more numerous than that.
That always happens.
That's just the number I've
Yeah.
seen. Yeah. The last one, most recently, that I can remember is a horrible Netflix-only anime called Seven Deadly Sins, which in the very first episode, the main character falls onto a girl, and the camera pans back and it reveals that he's got a hand on a boob.
You see, I've not even seen that one because I know you and Lucy were saying it's not even worth
Oh,
it.
it's dire. Just don't bother. Yeah.
So that's a trope, and it just seems to happen all the time. And like a kind of saucy postcard,
Yeah.
everyone just goes, oh, bit of a nudge and a wink, and
Yeah.
then they get on with their lives. I feel Evangelion for having such lofty
Ambitions.
themes.
Yeah.
It's a very, borderline
Cerebral.
pretentious
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
Art.
I feel like they should be better than this. They should be above this.
It's what we've talked about before with other anime, though, and it's like when we talked briefly about Kuromakuro as well in the last episode, and how that had, again, such a great concept, and yet suddenly felt the need to do things that all other animes do.
Yeah.
Send our hero to high school. It's like...
There was a boob grab in that as well.
Was there?
Yeah, do you remember
I've blocked it out.
the ace lady pilot?
Yeah, the blonde.
Yeah, he got the better of her by grabbing her boob.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
yeah. Ooh, it was
Yeah.
all nervous and awkward. Yes, that was bad. It's almost like no matter what story you're telling, and sometimes I really hope that it's the producers going, oh, you've got this great story here. It's really, really cool. Really great characters, really great concept and everything. You haven't got any boob grabs or panty shots in, though.
Yeah.
So we're making an anime here, right? You got to get them in.
The one kind of proviso I'll give here, the one kind of thing, I think I get what they were trying. I don't know. This wasn't necessary. They
It wasn't
didn't
at all
need to
necessary.
have this at all.
But the scene's good.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of plot.
Because the point is, it's not played for laughs in the same way
Not at all.
that
played
this
for
scene is
laughs.
always played in every other anime.
Yeah. True, yes. It's always a comedy moment,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
And so it is, and the point is that Shinji is an awkward, sexually confused boy
And
going
that
through
Ray is
puberty.
also awkward as well.
Ray is incredibly alien.
Yeah.
So I get that it's meant to be this horribly awkward, sexual moment, but it could have been achieved without a boob grab.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? The scene...
It could have been achieved without her nudity, without her coming out the shower,
Yeah.
I think. It could have been him going to her house. It could have been going in and realising the squalor that she lives in, despite her importance, which I think is kind of an interesting juxtaposition. And then the discovery of his dad's glasses, because
Yeah.
I think that's important. And so this would be this great thing where you're like, she's important, but she's like just cast aside almost, like she's irrelevant. She's got all these horrible injuries, but no one seems to care about her. And also, she does have this one thing she hangs on to, which is my dad. That's a really important character moment.
Yeah.
But she doesn't need to be naked.
No.
She doesn't need to have a boob grab. None of that needs to be there.
I get that they're trying to show like Shinji's sexual awakening or whatever. I get that, but it
I get it because they want to put it in.
it gets to a point where you're like, why are we seeing this?
Yeah.
Is it because you're meant to feel? Oh, is it?
It's titillation, isn't it?
That's
It's
the
got
thing.
to be.
Is someone meant to be getting their rocks off to it? Is
Yeah,
the question, and it
they
feels
are.
pervy.
And the thing is, it feels incredibly pervy. It makes you feel a bit dirty watching
Yeah.
it. And particularly when we're coming from an angle of, this is a great show. I have certainly showed Evangelion to people in the past, and we've got to this point, and I've started to feel awkward.
Yeah.
That I'm saying this is a great show, and then I'm showing this scene to someone, and they're going, oh, this is what Nick's into then, is it? And it's
Yeah.
like, no, it isn't. The cool stuff is the robots and the mythology, and all. I just wish it wasn't there.
It's weird, isn't it? Like you find yourself making a lot of excuses.
Yeah,
for
absolutely, absolutely.
And this is a problem. I don't know. I think with a lot of, I don't want to just lay the blame at anime because there's issues in a lot of mediums we love.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But it's like you can't escape the fact that she's meant to be 14,
That's true.
and it's like
That's easily forgotten.
yeah, it's like here she is, she's naked, and I know I know to a Japanese audience there is a cultural thing where it's seen as slightly less taboo.
Yeah.
This kind of, I guess, sexualization of younger women.
It is, 'cause it appears
girls.
a lot in their entertainment, doesn't it?
But I know it's a cultural thing. Like, it is very much like a thing that they consider children to mature a lot earlier.
Yeah.
But it's weird, and I don't know.
From our perspective, certainly.
It's weird to us, and but also from a storytelling point of view, it does feel like gratuitous.
I think that's really nail on the head moment there, really, is that it isn't necessary.
Yeah.
And I would argue that as much as, okay, they're trying to tell the story about Shinji's sexual awakening, I'd argue that isn't necessary either. To the whole overall plot of this story, Shinji's sexual awakening is not important.
Yeah.
People will talk about Evangelion and go, it's an incredible coming-of-age story about a boy dealing with, you could say, the end of the world. That would be one way that someone might, rather in a nutshell, describe this show.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's important. I
No.
don't think we need to have that. It could be a story about an emotionally conflicted boy coming to terms with a forced responsibility on him. That's a great story.
Because it's all like non-heroic. It's not even like, in a different anime, it would be like he's piloting a robot, he's saving the world, there's a cute girl.
Yeah.
You know, he grabs her boob and like, oh, it's all quirky and flirty.
Comedy.
But it's like, no, it just feels dirty. And I get
It does.
that and Evangelion can be very awkward.
Yeah.
And it's almost like Teenage Boy Simulator, like 2000. It's almost like, remember all that horrible sexual awkwardness of being young.
Let's put you through it again.
and not knowing how to interact with girls. It's kind of like that, but this just doesn't feel good.
I guess something I've always got to bear in mind whenever I'm, because you know, we watch crappy anime a lot, and we go through this exact same thing so many times. And what I've got to remember is that there's a kind of manga and anime called shonen, you know, which is for young boys.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the rules of it, just like there are rules of a pantomime, are that part of the draw is to have sexy, titillating ladies in it, because that is, you know, in the same way that we might be drawn to a really cool heroic picture of Superman on the cover of a Superman issue and think, that looks like an exciting story and I want to read it. That has the same effect in Japan of putting a sexy lady. And let's be honest, like Western comics do it as well.
I know.
You have very scantily clad superheroic women.
Yeah.
It purely there to
There's
titillate.
probably a lot in common, because at the same time, while a lot of characters are always sexualized, in a curious way, it's oddly family friendly.
Yeah, safe.
Which is, you know, that's a broader term open for interpretation, but
Yeah.
it's like they never have sex.
No, certainly not.
No, God knows, that never happens. It is kind of the level of like a saucy postcard.
Yeah.
You know, it's very like, oh, you know.
And I don't want this to come across like we've got a prudish perspective on it, because I'm coming at this from a storytelling perspective, you know, and I think there are plenty of times that nudity and a sexually attractive woman has been used in a story very effectively, and maybe you could argue almost was necessary to a story. I would hold up Game of Thrones as maybe being excessive a lot of the time, but sometimes it's actually quite effective in how they use it in the show, certainly. I haven't read the books. But it's doing a different thing, and the result of this is that it seems jarring, unnecessary, and pervy.
Yeah, and quite hard to defend.
Really hard to defend.
And I think that's the real sticking point. If we could sit down and say with a straight face that it was utterly necessary.
Absolutely necessary, yeah.
Like showing this. Good grief. I mean,
there's just no way we could
showing this to someone with, like, you know, showing this to an anime fan, you know, maybe, you know, easier to forgive because, you know, we accept a lot. Showing it to someone who had never watched an anime, trying to say that this is a really good series,
and that this scene especially,
it's not good.
There's just no way I can do that, and I won't make excuses.
And you're right, because if he'd just gone to the house, found Ray, he goes in, hello, lets himself in, turns around, and Ray is standing there fully dressed,
and she says, "How dare you let yourself into my house?" Because that would be a great thing. Yeah. You know,
or even
call him on it.
But even if she said nothing, though, even if it be the exact same scene,
yeah,
and she's this weird robotic kind of personality. She goes over, takes the glasses off him, leaves the house.
Yeah,
he's like, whoa, that's weird.
Everything's communicated. Yeah. Like the idea that she lives in squalor, and the idea that she finds those glasses, they're very important to her. That's the point of this scene. Truly, is the point of this scene. You know, and yet we have all of this other stuff which we don't need. Certainly not. And if anything, maybe the worst part of it. Because at least, I mean, Ray's naked. She doesn't need to be naked, but Ray does need to be there. So you could argue that naked or not, Ray's part of that scene is important. the underwear drawer exploding into the room. There is no other reason for that other than, obsession with pants. Like,
it's almost like, we were talking about the artist thing earlier. It's almost like if this was being taught in film school, it'd be like, and this scene is a metaphor for sex as symbolized by the raining panties. It's like, ugh. Anyway.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I think we've said everything you said about
There's a
that.
couple more moments in the series which I always find very hard to defend, and I find even now very hard to sit through.
Yeah.
And that's one of them.
I found that hard to sit.
That's one, and I can think there's a few more coming up as well.
Luckily, we then move on from that scene, and Rei just storms out.
And Shinji follows her.
Shinji follows her because they're on their way to Nerve.
Yeah. So he follows her all the way to Nerve, trying to talk to her. She's not really interacting. Gives her the new ID card.
Yeah.
They start ascending the massive escalator.
Yep.
And he says, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And she
Which
said,
is
"Yeah."
a good thing, I suppose. And the key thing that's said here, they start talking about his dad. Because he asks, does he ask, why have you got my dad's
I
glasses?
can't, because he says, "I'm sorry," and she says, "What for?"
Oh, no, that's right. And then he says, are you scared to pilot the alien?
Yes.
And she says, I trust. You're Gendo's son, aren't you?
Yes.
And he says, yes. And she says, do you not trust in your father's work?
And he goes, "How could I possibly trust him?"
Of course not.
Yeah. And she turns around and slaps him.
Yeah.
The only real emotion we've seen her
Yeah,
display.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting a couple of the events. Oh,
Ooh.
pardon me. Sorry, someone's phone is ringing.
Hey.
Off camera. We shall cut momentarily. Okay, sorry about that. We're back in the room. The phone has been answered. Yeah, I was saying I was getting a bit confused about some of the occurrence of events now, because kind of wrapping up the episode, we get like not quite a montage, but like a series of not massively connected scenes where both Shinji and Rei are kind of undergoing piloting tests.
Absolutely. Yeah, still up to their necks in fluid in hangars.
Yeah, basically just seeing, are the plugs working? Can we connect people? Because we see someone mentions that the reason Unit 0 malfunctioned
At the beginning of the episode.
they called it like emotional disturbance on the part of the pilot.
That's right.
So they tried again, and Rei is sitting in the cockpit.
Yep.
And she's thinking about how Gendo
Saved her.
saved her life, and they get perfect synchronization.
They do.
So the Unit 0 is working fine.
Activates
now.
perfectly. And
And-
they're like, yay.
And on a side note, Rei appears to have recovered from all her injuries,
Yeah, she does, yeah.
however they were caused, or whatever. Shinji sees Rei talking to Gendo.
He's also in the cockpit of Unit 1, and he's looking out onto the gantry.
Yes.
And she hops out of the entry plug, excited. Sort
Yeah.
of does. And again, we're seeing more emotion on her face and her manner than we ever have before. And she sort of gallops up to Gendo, and Gendo seems to be talking to her. We can't hear anything they're saying because it's all from Shinji's distant perspective in the cockpit. And she's smiling, and Gendo's smiling as they're talking.
So two very robotic characters who will show no emotion to Shinji other than hate or disappointment.
Yes.
Like Rei slapped him.
Yeah.
Like Rei didn't even...
Although we know why. At least we know why Rei slapped him, because she really likes Gendo. And
Really
so
loves Gendo.
When someone insults him, she's like, hey.
But again, it's like it's better than last episode, but it's this classic thing where nobody can see things from Shinji's perspective.
No.
At all.
And to be honest, if the episode before this had been like this one,
Yes.
as in I could see character motivations, but they were still mistreating him,
Yeah.
then I would have been a lot more tolerant about the last episode.
That's true.
But at least with this one, we don't know much about Gendo, but we do know enough about Rei to know that she cares about Gendo.
Yeah.
And so therefore why she would slap Shinji across the face. It makes sense. There's motivation. There's cause and effect. Do you know what I mean?
But Shinji, Rei is almost utterly robotic.
Yeah.
Like all the time.
All the rest of the time.
But when she hops out the entry plug to talk to Gendo, she seems like a normal girl.
There's a good bit of animation work there, actually.
Yeah.
Because her body language has changed completely. And the way she holds her hands in front of herself, and the way she does this little run up to him.
Yeah, like a little skip. Like
Yeah,
she's
it's
happy
almost
to
like
see
she's
him.
really
Yeah.
happy. And most of that is conveyed through her movements.
And it
which
is
really
like
good.
father and daughter.
It is.
It's the
Yeah.
paternal bond which Shinji has never had.
And he looks on with a lot of sadness.
Yeah, it's like, well,
And that would cut you deep, wouldn't it?
yeah, it's like hell. I've never
and
been.
that is another emotional reaction that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I like it from a storytelling
That's,
perspective.
you're right. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. In that moment, there is more effective character building
Yeah.
than all of the previous episodes.
I would agree completely.
Yeah.
And if anything, that's actually a really good moment. It's sad, it's bad, it's melancholy, it's horrendous for Shinji, but that's what the story's all about.
We
That's
learned
fine.
something about all three characters,
We
and
did.
not a single word is spoken.
It's good.
So-
It's effective, and it's done purely through animation and characters.
So hats off to you, Evangelion.
You're pulling it back.
That's
a bit.
a tick in the plus column.
You had a very, very low point, and you pulled it straight back up.
But then the conclusion is suddenly
Dun 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 dun.
that
dun,
music
Dun. There's an angel coming.
and a shot of the ocean and a tiny shape in the distance.
reflecting light. It looks like a shiny thing far away.
La, and a noise.
Oh, and we
And
all know what that is.
So I was sort of, what is that noise? What does it mean?
Yeah.
And
Very weird again, though.
the dude who's
Fuyutsuki.
Fuyutsuki, Gendo's
Gendo's
second in
sort of
command,
right-hand man.
goes like, there's an angel approaching.
The fifth angel
It's
is
the
coming.
fifth angel is approaching, and it's like action stations.
Yeah.
and,
It's like launch unit 1, and you see Masato scream, launch!
Oh, sorry. One thing.
Oh,
Don't they say, can we launch Unit 0?
Do they?
Yeah, because he says it's not ready yet.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Okay, cool.
Because Ray has just had that successful,
Oh, they power
test.
her down, don't
Yeah.
they? Yeah, rather
And
than launch her.
and they go like, can we launch Unit 0? And go, no, it's not ready for deployment yet.
Launch unit 1.
And they go, Unit 1.
Yeah.
So Shinji does his thing, gets fired up,
When his lightning rails.
and we see the fifth angel,
Yeah.
which is Ramiel,
Yeah.
which I always remember because it's my favourite angel. The angel of thunder,
Oh, is that right?
I think. Yeah.
Right.
I think if you care enough to check, it's kind of like every angel is taken from like Gnostic texts and stuff,
okay,
and they all
right.
have a. So Ramiel is the angel of thunder, and it looks like a giant
Well, like a pyramid on top of another pyramid.
A
base to base.
bipyramidal prism or something like that.
Definitely
Like
the technical term.
it's like it'd be like an octahedron or something like
Yeah,
that.
it looks like the green crystal that hovers above Sims' heads,
Oh, there you go.
but compressed.
There you go.
Into a more equilateral sort of shape.
And it's like a silvery blue,
Yes.
very reflective.
Very reflective.
And one of my favourite angels, by the simplicity of its design,
Yeah.
it doesn't even look like a monster.
And apparently this thing that's hovering here, that looks like a prism, has 98.89% similarity with humanity.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's floating, and it's making this weird kind of
La,
la, like this kind of like singing, and it's approaching Tokyo 3. They deploy Unit 1
who comes up, stands proud in the middle of a street,
just in time for
a weapon attack from the angel,
it,
which manifests as a sort of invisible beam that cuts through skyscrapers, creating a perfect circular hole.
now this is a lovely bit of animation
It is, yes.
because, as you said, this crystal has no limbs or eyes or anything.
or
It can
cannon or anything.
but its entire power appears to be energy.
Yeah.
It is
Invisible energy of an immense power.
so it fires this beam, and you just see this skyscraper melt like butter.
Yeah.
Like this hole just
Perfectly circular hole cuts through it and it just liquidizes the rest of it. And hurtles across the city and hits Ava 01 right in the chest. Just before it does, Misato shouts something like, "Dodge it!" to Shinji, but Shinji's just arrives at the surface. He turns and looks to the right and it's too late. He's already hit in the chest by it. You mentioned at this point, obviously the Avas are made of sterner stuff, because this blast hits him right in the middle of the chest and seems to boil the LCL in the entry
we see
plug.
we see the Eva's armor
Chest.
melt.
We do, yeah.
but it doesn't vaporize.
No,
which
it
is
doesn't
saying
cut through it
yeah.
like it does the skyscraper, which it vaporized in seconds. It sort of stops at the Ava's chest, and although it's cutting away the armor, it's stopping the blast.
Mm-hmm.
And inside, Shinji is in immense anguish,
screaming.
and then the episode ends.
Yeah, to be continued.
Yeah, which is a really good ending.
Yeah, it kind of bodes well
It does.
because we had like
This is the climb, maybe the beginning of the climb.
you can consider that like episode 4 there was nothing. Episode 5, one we just watched, is maybe like 80% of talking and emotion.
Yeah,
And even episode 3 didn't have a massive amount of action either. We've had a bit of a dry patch. when
we have.
we need-
So early on in the show as well.
we need something to
We
kind
do.
of bring people back in.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it bodes well. I mean, we know where this is going, but it's interesting. I trying to remember now. I'm trying to remember whether Ramiel is dealt with.
In another episode or another 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I suspect. I have a horrible suspicion it might be 3 episodes. I
Well,
feel
that's okay.
I feel that's the arc.
Yeah,
I feel
again,
it's
this is the
Shinji and
Ramiel
Ray
arc now. Shinji,
learning
Ray
to work
/
together to
Ramiel
take
arc.
down. So yeah, I mean, we've gone into the plot. I think in great detail, and we've discussed some stuff along the way. But I guess generally, as an overview, what did you think of the episode?
Well, I think it's better
Yes.
than the episode before. I think there's a lot to like about this episode, actually. As much as we dwelled on that awkward scene, it does only last for 2 or 3 minutes of the entire episode, and if I'm going to be brutally analytical about this thing, then that means most of the episode I liked. You said there was a lot of talking, but this time the talking was either adding more to the expositional setting of the story, learning about angels, learning about how Ava's power up, all that kind of stuff, or good character work, like the Gendo and Rei scene and everything. So, and even the horrible pervy nudie scene has some valuable character stuff we can take away from it, like how Rei's feelings are towards Gendo, what Shinji is like talking to people he doesn't know very well, particularly of a female nature. Looking purely on the positive because I want to, and because overall,
I need to.
This was maybe the first episode when I was first watching this show that started to make me think, ooh, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of interesting mythology and thought about the backstory of this, and I think this is the beginning of a climb, of a rise in quality of storytelling, and also of what we know and love to be Evangelion. This is the beginning of what we know Evangelion is capable of. And so I would go as far as to say that I liked this episode.
I think I liked this episode as well. It was a quiet episode.
Yep.
But the good kind of quiet. Like everyone acted like a human being, with the exception of the characters who were meant to act like robots.
Absolutely. That's
like,
a good way of putting it.
yeah, I liked it, and you can't have. It's a very introspective, kind of thoughtful show, so you can't have action all the time.
No, and I'm fine with that.
But this is the good kind of inaction, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
yeah.
it was good, and there was some effective character. I feel you almost could have just skipped the previous episode entirely.
You almost could have, really.
Like, yeah, I don't think anything of real consequence happened in the last episode.
No.
And we said we had a moment with no dialogue, which had more character building than all of the previous episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did like it, and I like it for some of the subtler reasons, like you said, like the fact that we do get these odd little world building gems of the angels are 99.89% human. They're made of a different form of matter. Another thing I forgot to mention is we get the first mention of the 3 wise men.
Ah, yes, the supercomputers.
The 3 supercomputers, Balthazar, Caspar, and Melchior. Yeah. Which is really cool.
That is cool, yeah. At this point, we don't really know what they are.
Yeah.
Like, they're just referred to send the data to Balthazar and then transfer that to Melchior, and it's like, well, what are we talking about?
Because I know, actually, it's coming back to me. I know there's some major plot points about those computers later on.
Yeah, there's a whole story about them.
And also their Ritsuko's relationship with them.
Yes.
Which is
cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of background stuff, which is starting to build. And I feel like
this is what we love about the show.
Yeah.
This is all of this stuff is the good stuff, the stuff that we excuse the other stuff for. But until now, and certainly episode 4 is a prime example of this, we had no inkling of that. And if anything, if you're going to have that episode 4, it should have been after an episode like this.
Yeah.
Because if you were watching this and you got to episode 4 and you'd never seen it before, I would not begrudge you for giving up.
No.
At that point.
No, I mean...
You have not been given a hint of the mythology. You've not been given a hint of the grander ideas that are behind this thing. All you've been given is this completely insane set of inconsistent motivations, which don't make any sense at all.
The characters are pretty unlikable.
Very much
all
so.
of them in number 4.
And you've got to invest somewhere.
Yeah. I agree entirely. I think I had a more coherent point I was about to make, but it just vanished out of my head. But yeah, like, this is a good, return to form. And I love this angel.
Yeah.
I love Ramio, and it's a sign. If it's a sign of things to come, then clearly the first time I saw it, it did hook my attention because I kept watching.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I did too, and a lot of people love this show. Loads of people love this show, and I'm not for a second suggesting that everyone who loves this show is stupid to have continued past episode 4, because I did.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
But you certainly would understand.
I would understand.
Yeah.
And certainly, if I was trying to show someone who wasn't already slightly equipped to enjoy anime, like my dad, for example, he would give up, and I wouldn't blame him for that.
It was a bit of a misstep, perhaps.
Maybe.
But
they're pulling it out.
I feel once they get... It's like if they get Rei established, because this is really all about Rei's character now. That's the whole point. If we get Rei established, then we have the makings of a more fully rounded cast, and maybe we're starting to get into that monster of the week territory,
I think we are.
which I know is often used as a derogatory term. So,
I like it. I rate it as a way of telling stories. You know, it's something you got to balance well. You got to do it right.
because you go like, oh, it's just monster of the week. It's not really developing the story in any way. But I like if you've established a good cast of characters, and it's like, here's a weird thing for them to deal with.
Yeah.
Here's another weird thing for them to deal with.
And
How
then-
are they going to react? How
Exactly.
are they? Yeah.
And then in the background, there's a greater arc or a greater threat developing for them to deal with at the end. It's a great way of doing it.
This was an upswing.
It was.
And I think it's going to continue. I have high hopes for the next episode.
I do also. Yeah.
So, should we do our thing
Let's
and
do our
rate
thing.
the old episode, unless there's anything else you want to add or comment on?
I don't think so. No.
I think we've covered it in pretty
I
good
think so,
detail,
yeah.
actually. Okay, so as a reference, we give every episode 2 ratings. One in terms of Shinji-ness, like how best does this episode out of 10 embody the core principle of Shinji Ikari, and also impact, like how great an episode is. So, previous episode, not great. We gave Shinji-ness 7 out of 10.
We did.
We could have gone higher, but we reserved
We did for the future.
yeah. And we gave it an impact of 1.
Yeah.
Like last episode was the nadir so far. Okay, so based on that, what do you reckon Shinji-ness score?
He wasn't that bad except for the nudie scene. He seemed collected as a human other than that moment. And aside from the relevance of that moment at all, he dealt with falling onto a naked girl probably about as well as any of us would have done
Yeah, like,
at that moment.
although the scene was kind of like a bit lechy, he at least seemed
He was kind of like a normal teenage
suitably
boy.
ashamed.
Yeah, he was
by it,
embarrassed. He didn't mean to do the things
No.
he did. The writers of the show did. And he reacted by getting embarrassed and garbling what he wanted to say, which is just like a human being.
Yeah.
So I would argue that that wasn't really a Shinji moment,
No.
actually. And so therefore his Shinji-ness was quite low in this episode.
I agree. Like, he seemed to be interacting fairly well with Masato and Ritsuko, even Toji and Kensuke. He had enough backbone to kind of say to Rei that he didn't like his dad,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, he came right out. Didn't hold that opinion back at all.
Piloted Unit 1.
Quite happily.
He was going through tests. Yeah, I reckon quite low on the old Shinji scale.
What are you going to go for?
Oh, I'm going to say, 3?
I was going to say 3. Brilliant.
3, great.
Perfect, yeah.
So we'll give it a 3 on the old Shinji-ness.
On the Ikari scale.
What about impact? Now, bearing in mind that we've gone from a 1
Yeah.
on impact.
It's not hard to go up from there. You see, impact, I mean, I want to save high impact scores for really cool moments and events. And that doesn't necessarily mean action, but moments that push the story in a direction that contributes to our love for it. So why we're doing this podcast.
Point. That's an excellent point. Yeah.
Yeah. So we know that Evangelion isn't 100% an action show. It calls itself a mecha show, but it's no Gurren Lagann, Robotech, or Gundam. It's not like them.
Yeah.
It's using mecha to tell other stories. So I don't expect there to be action in every episode. I consider this something of a high for the little character bits that we saw.
Mm-hmm.
But it's certainly not, I don't think, the best for that either. It seems fairly middle of the road is basically what I'm getting at in terms of impact. I don't know whether you...
I agree, because despite everything, I know we had a few kind of issues. It felt like an Evangelion episode.
It did.
Whereas last episode felt like some kind of horrendous nightmare.
Screensaver.
Very good point. Yeah, I think maybe I might say a 5.
Yeah. I was thinking 4 or 5, and I would agree 5.
I was thinking 4 originally. You kind of talked me around it, actually. you kind of made me feel a bit more generous, whereas like...
Yeah. No, I think it's fair to be generous to this one. I think a 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there we go. Not a terrible episode,
Not
actually.
a terrible episode, no. And if anything, as you say, like a very Evangelion sort of episode.
Yeah. Well, on that note,
Yeah.
I guess we should wrap it up.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
enjoying
so.
this now, and I feel we're getting into...
I do too. I do.
I'm looking forward to what's coming. now.
Very much looking forward to
It was a rough patch, and
We got through it.
high hopes for the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we sign off?
Let's do it.
So thank you for listening, everyone.
Absolutely.
I'm going
Thank
to
you.
try and get the sign off out in one go. I
we
think
go.
I would have got it by now. So thank you for listening, and remember, however bad your life may be, you could always be Shinji Ikari. This podcast, and others like it, is made possible thanks to our wonderful backers on Patreon. To support Big Punch Studios as we make comics like Afterlife Thinking 7 String, games like Sandwich Masters, and podcasts like the one you've just been listening to, head on over to www.patreon.com/Big Punch Studios. For just $5 a month, not only will you help make everything we do a reality, but we'll also send you 4 copies of Big Punch magazine a year. That's over 180 full-colour pages of comic action, featuring Cuckoos, Orb, 99 Swords and Catamaran, delivered straight to your door. This has been a Big Punch Studios production. For all things Big Punch, be sure to head on over to www.bigpunchstudios.com.